So let's start over here. We're up to 22a. So the Gemara says that Omar Lehu Rava Libnei Mechuza. Rava says to the sons of Mechuza, the question is the way they used to do in the olden days. Many people that were living in Babylonia, in Iraq, in Babil, when the person would pass on, they'd bring him burial to Eretz Yisrael. But of course, the transportation in those days was not as easy as we have it today. So it would be a whole procession. So many of the people were not able to go after the deceased all the way to Eretz Yisrael. So they'd walk behind the coffin till outside of the city, and then they come back home. Now, technically, Shiva, the 7 days of mourning, begin after the grave has been filled, or in Hebrew it's called Nistam HaGoylel. The Goylel meaning that the rock that covers the hole, like by Yaakov it says he rolled off the stone from the well to open it up. But in any event, after the burial, that's when Shiva starts, technically. But what he's telling them that these people that aren't going all the ways to the burial, they start Shiva as soon as they come back from the gate of the city. So let's see what it says here. This is what he's telling. Omar Luhu Rava Libnei Mechuza. So Rava says to the people of Mechuza, Atun Deloy Azlitu Basar Arso. You, that you don't follow after the coffin, after the bed, which the mace is lying on. So when do you start Shiva? So he says, Michi, I'll do the Rashi in a minute. Michi mehadritu apaichu. When you turn your face around, in other words, you're going back, mi baba de abula, from the door of the gate, the outside, it's the outside gate of the city. Aschilu manu, that's when you should start counting Shiva. So let's do the Rashi. The loy azlitu basar arsa, you that you're not following. You don't go after the bed. The man the osil basar arsa, the one that does go after the bed and it goes all the ways. Loy chaylo alei avelus. Avelus doesn't rest upon him ad shenistam hagoylel, until the goylel, that's the cover for the grave, is closed. And Rashi explains, Kishemoilichin hamito mibavel Eretz Yisrael, when you carry the bed from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, ligber, to bury it. Ve'ein kol hakroivim kulam yecholim lalis ad Eretz Yisrael. And not all of the relatives that have to sit Shiva, they're not able to go up till Eretz Yisrael. So umelavin hameis parsa emil v'chayzerim. They escort the mace, the deceased, a parsa or a meal, and then they go back home. So he told them, Michi hadritu apaichu mebaba da abula. But apparently they would go till the last gate there. Michi hadritu apaichu mebaba da abula. Baba da abula means mishara chitzen shel ha'ir umigrashah. There was an outer door, an outer gate of the city and its surrounding lot. Now, I'm going to assume there may have been a gate for the city itself, but then there was an outer gate which enclosed also the lot of the city, the migrash of the city. And the asisu lebeisa, and you are coming home, then aschilu manu, then you should start counting. Aschilu monu zokt Rashi Yemei Avelus, the days of mourning. And Rashi says, Afal gav deloy nikbar hameis ad yomim rabim. Even though the mace is not buried until many days, you still, because you're not following, you should start doing Shiva right away. And Rashi adds, "Va'afal gav da'avelus einechal ad sheyistem hagoylo." Even though that morning does not rest, does not start until the goylem is the goylo, which means the rock, the covering the grave. But liditchu the loy machzi, but you that you don't see chazaraschem is nistam hagoylo. When you're returning, because you're not going to be there, you're not going to see there. Those who follow have to wait for that point. But since you're not going to see it, so your returning is like the goylil was covered, and you can start shiva after you start returning back home to go back home from the outer gate of the city. Okay. In our Mishnah, we learned another halacha. Reb Shimon, we learned about if the family is sitting shiva, and then a person who lives within 3 days comes and joins them before the third day, that was the first opinion, then he can start counting with the family that is already counted 3 days. He doesn't have to start counting 7 day anew. He can join the rest of the family. But Reb Shimon says he came up with a chiddush, with a novel idea. Afilu bo b'yoyim hashvi mimokum korev. He disagrees with the first. He says even on the 7th day, if he comes mimokum korev, which means within 3 days, so he's almost like he was sitting already. Moine imohem, he would count together with them. So he is more lenient for somebody who joins them even on the 7th day. Omar Rab Chiya bar Gamda, Omar Rab Yossi ben Shol, Omar Rebbe. So Rab Chiya bar Gamda said name Rab Yossi ben Shol, name of Rebbe, V'hu shebo umotzo menachamim etzlei. Conditional that when he came, he found they were comforting by the person sitting there, which means, after Shiva is over at the 7th morning and everybody leaves, so you're not even seeing it all. But if you come there and there's still people coming to comfort him, then you can join in and then you won't have to sit anymore. That's what he explains the opinion of Reb Shimon. Hachi garsinon, v'hu sheloi amdu menachmim me'etzloi, that the condition is similar to our Gemara, it's a little different. Our Gemara says that he found them. He says that they didn't leave yet. Shabo b'shvi shachris. He came on the 7th day in the morning. Before they got up, those who are comforting got up in the house. So before they left, he came in. Then he can use the 7 days, and he doesn't have to sit shim. So Rabbi Onon asked the question. Rabbi Onon asked the question: what happens if they didn't actually leave? They're still there. But ninaru lamed, they got up to go. They moved, they were ready to leave. Ninaru lamed, Rashi, menanim v'roitzim lamed, they're moving and they want to get up, but they haven't got up yet. But they didn't get up. Mao, what is it then? Teku, it's not clear. Gemara doesn't know the answer to that. I mean, it's a hinge. He has to say the whole Shiva, start all over again if he can't count in there. So here the Gemara says, this was a question, who said this statement? So first, there's different versions in the Gemara. First version is that Gemir Chavri de Rab Abba Bar Chia Merab Abba, that the friend of Rab Abba Bar Chia learned, Rab Abba Bar Chia's friend learned from Rab Abba. Who's this friend of Rabbi Bachia who learned from Rabbi Uman Rab Zera? That's Rab Zera. So basically, that would mean that Rab Zera learned from Rababa. The Gemara said the friend of Rababa Bachia, who's Rab Zera, learned it from Rababa. That's according to this version. But others say it a little differently. That it was Chavri de Rab Zera. It was Rab Zera's friend learned it from whom? Rab Zera. He learned it from Rab Zera. Who is this friend? Umanu. And who is this friend? Rab Abba Berei de Rab Chia Bar Abba, the son of Rab Chia Bar Abba. So these are, the names are very closely associated, so there can be different. But either Rab Zera said it, or Rab Abba Berei de Rab Chia Bar Abba said it. And they said it in whose name? Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Anyway, finally the statement comes in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. But exactly who said it, that's the gears of them. What did he say? He says, Halacha ke Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel betrefes. The law remains like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel when it's trefes. This Rabbi Shimon is Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. I'm sorry. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel that's a law in trefes, not this Rabbi Shimon. Halacha ke Rabbi Shimon, this Rabbi Shimon is not Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Halacha is Rabbi Shimon ba'avel. That when we talk about mourners, the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon. What exactly does it mean? The Gemara is going to explain. Rabbi Shimon ba'avel, what does it mean that he meant that the halacha is Rabbi Shimon by mourning? Is hodamorim. This is what we just said. We brought down the machloikis from the Mishnah. Whether you come in on the seventh day, is it okay? According to Rabbi Shimon, is lenient. And he says that you can sit Shiva with the last day, or no, or it has to be in the first 3 days. So he says the halacha is like Rav Shimon Ba'avel, Hodamoron, that even if you came in on the seventh day, as long as they didn't get up yet, according to Rabbi Gamda over there, who gave that Rabbi Chia Bar Gamda, that as long as they didn't get up, even on the seventh day, like Reb Shimon, lenient like Reb Shimon. What is the case? Can Reb Shimon Gamliel betrefes? So what is the case in the Gemara over there, Reb Shimon Gamliel? So the Gemara brings down the halacha, the Tanan. We'll learn in the Mishnah. Now, an animal that you find a puncture in the intestines, that would make it treif. Treif, an animal that is treif means an animal that can't live 12 months. An animal that has a defect, has a hole in the intestines, is considered treif. It can't live for 12 months. But what happens, you have intestines that were punctured. But and you have the moisture blocks it up. You have sort of a patch. That hole is being patched by the moisture. Which moisture? The Gemara is going to say soon. So there is a internal lecha, moisture from the animal that covers up that hole. So then that doesn't count as treifa. It's kisher. Then it's kosher. Divrei Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. That's Rav Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion. So here we paskin also like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel that it's kosher. Paskin by Ovel that it's okay coming the seventh day. You can keep Shiva with them, but you don't have to make new Shiva. And we also say that if the Leicha covers it, it's kosher. Fredi Gemara, my Leicha, what is this my Leicha? Amar Rab Kahana, so Rabbi Kahana said, Shirko de Me'ayo de Nofak Agavduchka. That's the liquid, the moisture of the intestines that comes out when you push it. I guess when you cut it with a knife, there's a moisture that comes out. That moisture, if it closes up the hole, it's kosher.
I'm not quite clear. I mean, why we're talking about the Trave thing. I realize that they use that to identify which Rab Shimon it was, but
Okay,
I don't
so
understand why they're getting
okay,
into this.
good question. So let me back up. He just he gave in one statement. He said the halacha is like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel by Trefus, and the halacha is like Shimon Bavel. Why did Rabbi Yochanan say that? Rabbi Yochanan said it because I mean it's both Rav Shimon and both this is Rav Shimon Bavel. So he talked about the Rav Shimon. This is Rav Shimon Gamliel, and this is Rav Shimon Bavel. Why is it brought down over here? Because he said it in one statement. Rabbi Yochanan said the halacha is like Rav Shimon Gamliel ben Trefus, and the halacha like Rav Shimon came in Ovel, and and the Gemara brings it down here because it affects Ovel. So the Gemara digresses and discusses a little bit about that. So this is just telling you what is the case that he said the halacha is like Rav Shimon. Rabbi Yochanan was giving halachas. So he said the halacha is like Shimon Gamliel Trefus, halacha Rav Shimon Ovel. And the Gemara says, so what is he talking about? The Gemara gives the case. Now, I understand the Gemara didn't have to, we're not learning now the laws of Treifus. The Gemara didn't have to ask, bring this down, elaborate. The Gemara is going to elaborate further. So the Gemara says, my lecha, because we're going to see in the story, it's going to affect also the halacha. We're mainly concerned halacha by Avil. So Amar Mandahu, so there was some person over there. Mandahu means Adam Echad. Mandahav, whoever it was. Someone, they called it Mandahu. One person, there was something there said, Iski may I merit, and may I go up to Israel, I'd like to learn this, the master who gave over this halacha, which we had two opinions, either Rabba Bered Rab Chia or Rab Zera. These two people who said it, either Rab Zera or Rab Chia Barabba. I want to hear from them themselves. In other words, he wants to check it up and make sure that it's okay. Kisolik. So then he actually ended up going up to Eretz Yisrael. So he bumped in to Rab Abba Bered Rab Chia Barabba. So I don't understand, but if he didn't say that statement, so what is it? Why is he asking him? I don't know. We had two opinions, but apparently he asked him anyways, even if it's Rab Zera. He should say he found Rab Zera, but anyways. The Gemara says he found Rab Chia. Omar Lei said, Omar Mar halacha ke Rab Shimon Gamliel betrefes. He says, did you actually say, I guess he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, but did you say that the halacha is like Rab Shimon Gamliel when it comes to trefes, that it's good, the lecha that covers it, to close it up is okay. Omar Lei, he said to him, Ano ein halacha amri ke Rab Shimon. I said, just fakert. I said, what I said was the halacha is not like Rab Shimon. Ein halacha amri. Kalemer ein halacha ke Rab Shimon. I didn't say, here we're talking about Rab Shimon Gamliel. No, that it's not going to be kosher if it's blocked by the lecha. So he asked him again, Ba'ovel Mai, was the halacha by Ovel, like Rab Shimon or not? Amalei, Pluktaninu. This is a disagreement.
It's a disagreement whether the halach is like him or
Yeah,
if
well,
that's
he's going to bring two opinions. He's telling him he met up this Mandu, there's no name here. He met up with Rab Chia, Rabba Bered Rab Chia Barabba. Uh, I guess he named his son Abba after his father. He was Chia Barabba, so he named him after his father. Um, so he asked him, "What is the halach over there?" So he says, "Plukta ninu." That's a disagreement. The Itmar, Rab Chizda says halacha. Yeah, the halacha is like Rab Shimon. V'chein Omar Rabbi Yochanan halacha. So Rabbi Yochanan said halacha. Rabbi Nachman Omar ein halacha. He said halacha is not like it. And now the Gemara says, so what is the ruling? The Gemara comes up with the final ruling. Ve'ein halacha Reb Shimon ben Gamliel b'treifus. The halacha is not like Shimon b'treifus, which means it won't be kosher if it's blocked by that lecha, by the shuriko, as the Gemara uses there. Halacha Reb Shimon be'ovel. The halacha remains like Reb Shimon be'ovel, the lenient opinion. The Amar Shmuel says, halacha kedivra mekil be'ovel. The halacha will always be like the one who's lenient. When it comes to ovel, it's always like the lenient opinion. So therefore, we'll pass him like Reb Shimon. Okay. Now the Gemara is going to make a difference between how we mourn after parents and how we mourn after the other people that we're mourning. The Gemara is going to bring out many different differences between these two levels of mourning. So the Gemara says like this: Al kol hameisim kulam matche mitose. All other besides parents, you hasten. The one who hastens his pushes away the bed, harizeh meshubach, is praiseworthy. Because you don't delay, like you don't accept this. The fact is, the person died, you accept it. Matche mitosoi, Zoktrashi, push out the bed. Memahir lohitziyoi, you have to be quickly to remove the mace out of the house. Harizeh meshubach, matche mitosoi, the one who pushes out the bed is praiseworthy. However, alovi valimoi, out of respect for his father and mother, harizeh meguna, that would be not nice. That's shameful to go ahead and push out the bed, to leave and show more respect. But what happens, Erev Shabbos, Erev Yontif? If it was an Erev Shabbos, it was Erev Yontif. And there's actually a version here that brings in, and if it was also, or it was raining on the bed, it was raining. So in that case, then even for the parents, it's praiseworthy. Because he's doing it to honor his father, to bury him right away, to take away from the rain. So that is also praiseworthy. That's one distinction. Further, I'll call Amesim Kula about other relatives that died. It's up to him. If he wishes, he can diminish his other occupations. If he has business, he can either shorten or do less in his business. But Ratza, if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to. That's by other relatives. But if it's your father or your mother, then you have to slow down in your businesses. Further, I'll call out Mesim Kulom and all other dead that he's mourning. If he wishes, then he can. Choylitz means when he does the kriya up till the shoulder, meaning rip it all up. We don't have that custom today, but choylitz means to basically remove. He makes the rip all the way up to the shoulder. So if he wants to rotza choylitz, he moves sefer. That's the shoulder. If he whatever he wants to do, he could or cannot. Over there, he has to. The Gemara says, "Umayse begodl hadoir echad shemeis aviv ubikesh lachlitz." It was once a story. There was a great man of the generation whose father died. So he wanted to render his garment to the extent of removing and revealing his shoulder. Ubikesh godl hadoir achar sheimei lachlitz. He didn't. There was another person who was also a great man of that generation. He wanted to also, together with him, do it for himself. It was embarrassing to leave this person to do the chalitza just for himself. So he wanted to do it with him, so he should be as well. The nimna v'loy cholatz. So, because he didn't want the other person should be standing revealed like that with the so he stopped. He said he's not going to do it then. He wanted to do it. The nimna zaktrashi ha'ovel, the mourner v'loy cholatz, and he did not remove it mishum kovet kod lader she'imay. Shebikish lachlas gamhu, cause of the honor of the other great that was with him, he wanted to also remove it. So he didn't want him to do it. So he said, okay, I'm not going to do it. So who were these great of the generations? Amar Abaye, says Abaye. Godl Hadoir was Rebbe. That was Rebbe Yehuda Nossi. Godl Hadoir She'imai, who was the great of the generation that was with Rebbe Yehuda Nossi? That was Rabbi Yaakov Baracha. Ikotamri, other people say the other way around. Godl Hadoir was Rabbi Yaakov Baracha. Godl Hadoir She'imai was Rebbe. Rebbe was the one that with him. That was so. Whose father died? Either Rebbe's father died, Rabbi Yehuda Nossi's father died, or it was Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha's father died. In other words, Acha died. So the Gemara says Rabbi Yehuda Nossi was the son of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. So he was the son of a Nossi. If Rebbe's father died, then not only Rebbe was mechuyev to render, also all the people. So how come the rabbi with him didn't render his garment, so the other one didn't have to do it? The other one had to do it on his own, not just because he's doing it, not because the son. Pray the Gemara like this. Bish loima lamando amar God lader she'imay Rebbe. If you're going to say the God lader that went along with him, that wanted it, that is Rebbe, so that makes sense. Hainu the nimna v'lei cholatz. That's why he held back and he didn't cholatz, because he didn't want Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Yaakov didn't want the Rebbe to go with all the way to the shoulder for him, so that's why so therefore Rabbi Yaakov decided not to do it either. But if you say that the one who was Imay was Rabbi Yaakov, why did Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, how did he stop lecholatz? So who was the Ovel? It was Rebbe the Ovel. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Nossi, his father, Rebbe's father, was Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. He was a Nossi. Everybody has to. So why did Rabbi not want Rabbi Acha? Why did Rabbi Acha by Yaakov? Why did Rabbi stop Rabbi Acha by Yaakov from doing Nimna? Stop him. He should have let him, because technically, since Rabbi Shimon Gamliel died, Rabbi's father died, Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha needs to do himself. Amai Nimna v'lo cholatz. Why did he still the cholatz? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Nossi have it. They all have to do this chalitza up to the shoulder. And the Gemara says, "Kasha, it's a good question." So we have to learn that the mourner was Rabbi Yaakov Baracha, and the one that was with him was Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. Further differences between a parent or a mourner for somebody else. So the Gemara says, "Akol hamesim kulam mistaped la'achar lamed yom." And all people, not parents, you can take a haircut after 30 days. 30 days after that. Al avivi imay, but on his father and mother, achi yigoru b'rechaveirov, over there, until your friends will yell at you and say your hair is too long. Can't just 30 days is not enough. I'll call them Mason Kulam for all other uh, for all other relatives that he has to mourn, nichnas lebeis hasimcha la'achar lamed yom. Then you can enter a place after 30 days. You can go already to a party, to a place, a house of joy, beis hasimcha. But aviv alimei, but on his father and mother, over there you have to wait 12 months. La'achar yud beis chodesh, after 12 months. Omar Rabbi Bar Chana. So Rabbi Bar Chana says, uh, uh, Tanya, he says, the only place you can go in after 30 days would be just like a friendship and not a wedding kind of a simcha. Omar Rabbi, Rashi. Tanya nichlas lebeis hamishta lachar lamed yoim. This that we learned that you go into the party house after 30 days is ulesimchas mereus. If it's a friendship simcha, that's a kind of a simcha you can go in. Rashi says, well, simchas mereus suuda sha'osim reim v'ahuvim zeim zeh. Those are friends that are making a meal, and people that are love each other. So you get together, you have a meal. That kind of a meal you can get together after 30 days if it's not your parents. That's not such a great joy. Avol suda de simcha, but a meal which is a joyous meal, kegoin the nesuyin, if it's a marriage, loy. Though over there you cannot go even after 30 days, even not for your father and mother. So the Gemara says, Meser, I'll ask you a question. We learned in the Braisa, it says, it says both can go to simcha and a friendship after 30 days. So why are you saying that you can't go after 30 days? I think Gemara says, Kashi, it's a good question. Taki, you could go. That's okay. He has a different version. He says like this. Amar Rabbi Bar Chana says, "Simchas mereus mutar likonas la'alter." That if it's a simcha of friendship, then you can go in immediately. You don't even have to wait 30 days. But we learned in Abraisa l'simcha shloishim. Simcha mereus shloishim. So you have to wait shloishim for everything. How come you're saying for a friendship you can go right away? And the Gemara says, Loi Kashya. This is not a question. Because Ho Risusa Ho Bipur Anusa. What does that mean? Ho Risusa Ho Bipur Anusa. So Rashi is Arisa Hainu Shem Maschil Echod Mehen Lasi Suda. One of them starts making a meal. So they used to do, one person make a meal for everybody, and he loans everybody. He gives them to eat. Today, they should do it for that meal as well. No, namikach. They should do so. Namikach. Basically, invites one family for the meal, and he has in mind that that family will invite him back for the next meal, so they're rotating. So each one will be at the other's family for the meal. So la'oisa suda for that meal, eine nichnas ad la'achar shleshim yom. You can't go into that meal, even though that's a friendship. You can't go till after 30 days. Avol b'pur anus. Purnus means you pay. So mishalim lahem suudis. You pay for the meals. Shenasula that were made for him. Yekonis la'alter. If he pays for the meals, that they make for him, so in other words, that he's making a meal for them, for the meals they made for him, so then Yukonis Lauter, then he can go out immediately, he can go in, because he cannot not pay back. So if he did it as a loan, uh, and if the guy is starting off the meal now, and you want to take part of it, say no, don't take part, so you don't have to give it back. But if you already took the meal and you owe and you have to pay him back, then you can call make that meal. In other words, don't make that meal. You don't have to pay back. The guy starts off to make a suda, and they want them to make, so don't go there, so you won't have to make a suda back. But if he already made for you a suda and you have to pay back, then you should go. Further, another difference. Akol hamesim kulam karei tefach. For all made, you rip the size of a tefach. But alav alimay, but for your father and mother, achi yigala esliba, until you reveal your heart. It goes all the ways to your heart. Tefach is not enough, you reveal your heart. Amar Babo Maikro, where's the pasuk for a tefach? It says in Shmuel Beis, Perek Aleph, it says, Vayichazik David bivgodo vayikorim. So David held on to his clothing and he ripped them. He was mourning. Ve'ein achiza pochus mitefach. Saying holding on, held on to his garments, at least a tefach. So therefore, we see that he ripped something which was a tefach. Akola mesim kulom, for all uh, other dead that he has to mourn from, other relatives. Afilu levush asur chalukim, even if he wears 10 garments, so he has the ability to do a few garments if he want to, but einay kaireya el he does only rips the first one. If he has even a lot of garments, you're only going to rip the top one. Aloviv al imay kareis kulam, but for the father and mother, you have to rip all the garments on you. Any garment you have to rip. Va'apikar sutoi. Pikar sutoi is a shawl that's on his head. That's not a garment. That he doesn't. Einamak kevis. That doesn't hold back. Shal reisha. Einamak kevis. When he doesn't hold back, koleimer ein tzorich lekoira. You don't have to rip that. You don't have to rip that shawl. Echad ish ve'echad isha. Whether a man or woman, they all have to do kriya. Rendering the garments is everybody's obligation. Echad ish ve'echad isha chayavim lekriya are obligated to do kriya. Rav Shimon Lozer Eimer, Shimon Lozer says, Ha'isha koiras es hatachten, a woman would rip first the bottom one. You don't want her to rip the top and the bottom to reveal herself. So therefore, first she rips the bottom and she turns it around. Koiras es hatachten, machzirosi lachireha, and she turns the rip to the back. And then and then she rips the top one. So the rip of the top one is not against the rip of the bottom one. So she ripped both garments, but they're not next to each other. Isha. So Rashi, Shemesa via Ima, her father or mother died. Keras cholokatachta mishum tznius. So she rips the bottom shirt because of tznius, modesty. Keras es atachten umachzirosei la'achereha. Uh, and she turns it to her back, uh, the bottom one. Rashi says, "Machziros hakerel achareha," and the rip she puts to her back. V'chezeres v'karas es ha'elyon. Then she goes back and she rips the upper garment. V'chezeres v'karas ha'elyon. V'hatachtu mechasa libe. So the bottom shirt covers her heart, so it's not revealed, and the upper one is visible that she did the kriya. Akola meisim kulam, for other relatives, rotzom mavdil kamei sofer shaloi. So in the it has a lip like the hem on the by the neck where the neck goes in by the shirt. There's a hem over there. So if he wants to, uh, he can separate kame sofa. It's not on the it's not on the lip itself. It's not on the hem itself, but what's on top of the hem. She'ena b'sofa shelifnei hatzavar. It's not on the kamer shelifnei hatzavar. It's not in the hem in the lip that is in front of the neck. Elo kamei sofa, but it's before the lip shelifnei hasofa shelifnei hatzavar. It's before the lip that is in front of the neck. So before the neck. So this is the higher piece. She'ena krua. וקורע תחתיו כדי שיהיה נראה קרע, and he runs but so it should be seen. רוצה אינו מבדיל, so or he doesn't have to separate it, אלא קורע שבייס הצוואר, he actually rips the where the neck goes in, אף על גב דאינו נראה הקרע, והכל בייס הצוואר הוא, because it's all the base outside the neck. Basically, I think what he's talking about over here, if you rip where the neck goes in, right? So since there's an opening there, so if you rip it, you can't tell that it's a rip because it's all an opening for the neck to go in there. You don't, if you want, he says, you can separate the lip higher than it and you rip it so you should see the rip. But if you don't have to do it. If you just want to rip the place the neck, so you can't see it, it's okay. But al aviv alimai mavdil. But on his father and his mother, he has to separate the piece before the lip, so you should be able to tell the cat. I'm not sure exactly what the kame sofa, how it works. Maybe I have to look a picture exactly, but it's visible or not visible. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol kriya she'enei mavdil kame sofa shaloi. If it's a rip that you don't separate the kame sofa shaloi, that's before the lip, that piece that should be visible, eina lekera shel tiflus, would just be a rip of waste. In other words, you're not doing kriya. You can't tell it's not doing kriya if you're just going to rip where you can't tell. Kera shel tiflus or trashi kolaymar no yotzo yidei kriya. You didn't fulfill the mitzvah of kriya. Why? If you needed the base saber hu akoil, it looks like it's the neck. It looks like it's an opening. You can't see that it's a rip. Amar Ababo said, Rabbo, my time in Rabbi Yehuda. What is Rabbi Yehuda's reasoning that it has to be seen as two pieces? The Ksiv, it says, Vayichazik b'begodov. He held on into his garment, Vayikorim l'shnayim kroim. And he ripped them into two pieces. So, Vayikorim l'shnayim, Dr. Enkoirim elo shenira kishnayim. The kriya can do only when it's visible, like two. Mavdil kama sofa, because you separate the kame sofa, the other part. So the place of the neck, it looks like another rip because that's another. So you have two rips over there. So that's why you have to separate also the kame sofa, which makes it a visible. Because from the fact that it says he ripped him, so he ripped him means already any idea Shem l'shnaim. So I know it's two. Why does it have to see by korim l'shnaim kroim? El l'shenira kroim kishnaim. They have to be visible, appear like ripped into two. Further, it says akol hamesim kulon shoyla la'achar shiva. After the for all mesim, after shiva, you can sort of pin it up. Shoylal is sort of to pin it up together, the rip. But to fully sew it together, you have to wait after shloshim. The garment that you ripped. Shoyle bashtir. But ma'achel zukrashi kante toifer kedarka. That's to sew up fully. Val ovi valimoy shoyle lacher lamed. So after 30 days, you can sort of pin it together. You can never put it together fully. But a woman, she is allowed to put it together. Honorable. It's not honorable for her to have a ripped garment. Out of respect for the woman, you can be shoylel immediately. You have to wait for 7 days. Also, Ravi Nomer Rabbi Yechnan, when the Ravi came, is Rabbi Yechnan. I'll call him Meisim, Ratzu Karei Biyad, Ratzu Karei Bekin. All Meisim, you can either rip by hand or you can use a tool. When you use a tool, you make a better cut. Like this, you rip it by hand, you destroy it. So you can use a tool, Karei Bekeli Sakin. That's a knife, Kadesh Lo Yafsid Beged, not to ruin the garment, not to lose the garment. Al aviva imay biyad, but on the father and mother, you have to do it with the hand, even though you're ruining it. For all mesim, you can do it in the inside. What means mibifnim? Zok Rashi, tachas hamaktoirim shaloi. I don't know what the maktoirim shaloi is. She'enu kareya mechutz le'enei hakoil. He doesn't rip it. It's similar to what we learned before. I don't know about the kamisofa. Alov alimo kareya mebachutz. Not sure what is the maktoirim shaloi. Maybe the collar. Maybe atachas maktoirim means under the collar, so I guess the cover covers it. So it's only on the inside. You see a rip, but on the outside it's covered. He has to do it on the outside. The same thing is for nosi. A nosi, you got to do it on the outside. So by nosi, you also have to do it on the outside. So the Gemara says misivi. I'll ask you a question. It says in the Braisa that lehushvu la'aviv le'imay, that we did not equate. We're talking about mourning for a teacher, a rabbi v'av bezdin v'nosi, v'chol hanach l'tonim b'masnita. So they were not equated la'aviv le'imay, ela le'ichud b'levad, only as far as sewing them together, that we said that you can never sew it together. She'ein misachin la'olam. They can never sew them together. Just like parents, you can't sew it together. So for the other ones, you also can never sew it together. But they were not compared to the father and mother that you have to do it on the outside. They weren't equated for that part of it. You don't have to do it outside. So why does it say v'chein l'nosi? Why did it say? So my love. So maybe this will be for all of the people, including Arava, Abez, the Nosi. The Gemara says no. My lava filu nosi. Doesn't this include even a nosi? So that it only can sew it together, but you don't have to do it on the outside. The Gemara says loy. The bar min nosi. Besides the nosi. The Gemara says Nisia Shachiv. The Nasi died. Amalei Rabbi Chizda. So Rabbi Chizda said Nachbar Ami. He said Rabbi Chaim Rami, Kapi Asisa. Kapi Asisa means turn over the mill. Kapi Asisa Rashi Hafecha Machteshes V'Amidalel. Turn over the meal and stand up on it. V'Kora and rip. So all the people will see when you do Kriya. So he is like for a Nasi, you have to do it in a public way for everybody to see. So you go up there and then rip it in front of everybody and show the Kriya Alma. But it says Al Chacham. What is the Chacham? Here, a sage where people ask him the laws. That's a Chacham. Chacham sagt Rashi memuna al ha'ir shemivakshim en ha'ira. He's appointed like the rabbi of the city. They ask him for instructions. Chayletz meyimin. Then you do the on the right side. Chayletz kosev meyimin. That's the shoulder of the right side. Alav bezdin, but on the bezdin mismoil. Al nasi, but for a nasi mekan mekan, from here and here. Okay, let's leave it over here now, and we'll be mamshich next week. Be'ezer Hashem, same time, same station. And as we started off, we're going to wish the neshamas for an aliyah, for those who we're davening today, learning in their schus, Dina Bas Yitzchok, Betty Bas Aaron, and Mordechai Nachman ben Chaim Meir, the neshamas who have an aliyah, and be good to better, and pray to Hashem for peace, for shalom, for all the good things for all of their families, and for Klal Yisrael. Thank you for joining me. Seeing everybody next week. Be'ezer Hashem.
Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Thank you.